This is the Pilots News Briefing Podcast. I'm Frank Daniels. With me today is Matt Lamb from the Pilots Newsroom on a chilly little Friday, bringing us the latest news in Moore County. Almost forgot the intro there. This is a story you posted today, right?
Correct.
So, school related.
Yeah, just a quick hit from Moore County Schools. So after say 6 months or so since the beginning of the school year, interim Chief Ricky Gooch has been elevated to the full-time chief position for the Moore County Schools Police Department. So a big day for him. He had a swearing-in ceremony with other law enforcement officials, his own SROs, family, friends, school administrators, staff. It's a good thing this afternoon. And so I just wrote a quick story about Chief Gooch, and he's a guy that's served his entire life. He's an Army guy. Went to work in Pinehurst, spent 30 years on the beat in Pinehurst, and retired as deputy chief. And then he came over to the school side, and he worked, I think he was an SRO for 2 years before he was elevated to the captain position. And then at the end of the school year last year, the former Chief Rodney Hardy retired. So, they've had Chief Gooch working in that interim slot since. And finally, the school board, in a consent agenda item that rolled the personnel report into it, they voted to elevate him. Yeah, like I said, to that top spot. And the guy's got a ton of experience. He went to the FBI National Academy in Quantico. He's completed the law enforcement executive program at State in Raleigh. He's got a criminal justice certificate through the North Carolina Justice Academy, advanced law enforcement certificate from Criminal Justice Education and Standards Commission. So Chief Gooch has been around, kind of runs the gamut. Interestingly enough, it wasn't a very straightforward vote the other night. We had 2 school board members that were not in favor of passing that consent agenda item as a result of his position on that personnel report. And I can understand their arguments. I'll remind you that Superintendent Tim Locklear announced his retirement recently. And in short order, current Assistant Superintendent for Operations, Jenny Purvis, will take that interim job as they are searching for a full-time superintendent. So both Pauline Bruno and David Hensley, school board members, suggested that it should probably be the new superintendent who makes the call on a full-time chief. And then there's also some background between Mr. Hensley and Chief Gooch. In a meeting a couple of months ago, Gooch said that there were some social media posts that had negatively affected the morale of his officers, and that was a pretty pointed statement at school board member Hensley. And Hensley asked him, "Did you see these posts personally?" He said, "No, I've just heard about it, and it's got a negative effect on my guys and my gals." And, I kind of went back and looked at some of those posts, and the crux of them, I don't think that they are personally impugning any single officer, but Hensley has long taken the position that Moore County Schools should not have its own internal police department.
Right.
I remind you that there's only 2 Moore County Schools and then Mecklenburg. And he thinks that their policing authority should be relegated to the sheriff's office. So he's made that argument, and in doing so, he said stuff like, it's time for Moore County Schools to join the 113 North Carolina school districts in 98 counties and have law enforcement professionals train, equip, and provide our school resource officers. And then, it's time for the school board and central office to admit the failure of having our own police force and return the security of our schools to professional law enforcement organizations. The refusal of the school board and central office to recognize the chronic failure of our ability to recruit, train, and equip a police force adequate to protect our faculty, staff, and students is endangering lives. So the suggestion being there that other departments may be more professional. And mind you, the district is dealing with a shortfall.
Right. These comments have all come in recent years.
Correct.
Surrounding the personnel gap, but between full employment and the retirement of Rodney Hardy. Right.
Yeah. Well, the school's police department was initially billeted for 13 officers. In 2022, the County Board of Commissioners said, "Hey, we're going to bolster your force and we're going to double it." Since then, they've had issues recruiting, and they've had people come and go. But, they're still dealing with double-digit vacancies. They just hired a new officer, so they're making some headway. But there is not an officer at every single school in the district. And I think that's a frustration of some. And then, Pauline Bruno, she was like, hey, I'm all about supporting our own and taking care of our folks. But I do think that this should be a decision made by the new superintendent. The other school board members, they support him. And so they ultimately voted 5-2. And so Chief Gooch was sworn in today. That's where I was earlier this afternoon. Sworn in at 2:00 with all his folks. So he will be taking the helm for the foreseeable future.
All right, and as you say, I mean, since you mentioned it, I'm just curious. Do you have a timeline for when Assistant Superintendent Purvis will be sworn into that interim position?
She gets sworn in soon, but she starts in March, the end of March, and that contract will run through June.
Okay.
And again, she certainly can apply for the full-time superintendent position. Remember, Tim Locklear was also an interim superintendent after the retirement of Bob Grimacy. So there's a pathway forward from there. Whether she wants that full-time job or not, I'm not sure. The district is currently contracting with a superintendent search firm. So their work will get underway pretty short order. They'll start having some stakeholder meetings and talking to school staff, taxpayers, parents, kids, trying to figure out the direction. And then they will start kind of putting together a short list, and they'll ultimately bring it to the board for approval.
And you and I talked about that. I think it was last week. We talked about that. Some discussion surrounding the hiring of SFLA as that's the architect, but
Correct.
Hiring the consultant for the search firm. But if you have questions, head back to that episode or check out. We mentioned 2 stories that you've written this week. Check those out, and if you have questions, you can send them to Matt at mlamb@thepilot.com. That's MLAMB at thepilot.com. If you have questions for me about the podcast, send those to frank@thepilot.com, FRANK @thepilot.com. And that's the latest news in Moore County.
Appreciate it, Frank.
Thanks, Matt.